Hey there, and thank you for joining us. We are here to learn about protesting your property taxes in Tarrant County. Now, this will apply in counties all over DFW, in fact, all over Texas, but the slides and things are geared for the Tarrant County Appraisal District because that's just where Jeremy and I own property in Tarrant County and where we do most of our business. We're the most familiar with that, but the strategies I'm going to go over can be used anywhere. But if you have any county specific questions, I'll hopefully be able to answer those at the end, but I may have to redirect you or get them to us and we'll figure out the answers, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The host, Jeremy Smith, and me, Kyle Lindsay, we are on the Smith team here, Jeremy's team. Like I said, unfortunately, he won't be here tonight because he had a last minute emergency pop up, but he will be one of the people helping lead the charge. If you have any further questions or you want to reach out to him directly, you're more than welcome to. So the Smith team is a local real estate team. I'm going to bring this up once or twice, mainly because one of the things that we specialize in is when you have a home that you own and you want to buy another one, that is a particularly difficult kind of transaction that we have really developed some pretty streamlined strategies for. That's what we're really good at. Now we can help you in all sorts of different situations, first time home buyers, move up, move down, those kind of things. But that's what we're really good at. And one of the nice things about that is we can run the comps for you as real estate agents to help you protest your taxes because we do a lot of business in Tarrant County and really all over DFW. And we have a vested interest, not only being property owners ourselves, but with helping all of our clients keep their property taxes low so we can keep the affordability where it needs to be. So hopefully this will help you be more confident in protesting those taxes so that you can do that. So what we're going to go over today is how to read your value notice, how to prepare for the protest, get ready, what research do you need to do. There's 3 different types of protests that you can do. We're going to show those to you in the recommended order that you should do them in. That way you go from easiest to hardest. And then of course, at the end, we'll open it up for a little Q&A. Before I start this, I really want to make one quick note. Now, I personally believe if you have the ability to, you should probably protest your taxes every year. Can't hurt. They won't raise them, but you can always try to get them lowered. However, what most people think about is they think about that big value drop. I just saved $5,000 or $10,000 when you protest. Really what you're doing is you're lowering the value of your property. When you are protesting your taxes, what you're really trying to do is have your property valued at a lower level or lower amount than what the county did. Let's say you get that property value lowered $5,000. Average, I'm going to round up a little bit. Average DFW tax rate is around 3%. Now I'm rounding up, like I said, for easy math, but if you got it lowered $5,000 and it's a 3% tax rate, well, you saved 150 bucks. Now, penny saved is a penny earned, but you may realize this is going to be a lot of work for not a whole lot of gain. If that's you, no shame. If you just want to let it ride, no big deal. However, if you are willing to go through and protest, I have seen people get 30, 40, $50,000 knocked off of their value. And that could be a pretty substantial gain. Now you're looking at not 150, but maybe 1,200, $1,500 that you're saving on your annual property taxes. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes we do look at values and bring that up to people and see what we think they can actually get versus what the county's valuing their property at. And it may just not be worth your time. So keep that in mind as we go through this, but there is a little bit of a decision to be made there if it's even worth doing all this. But we'll go into that here in a little bit on how to actually look at those comps and decide that. First up, how to read your value notice. A few very important things here. I've whited out some of the personal info there from one of my past notices here. What you're really looking for in these key areas is the information you're going to need later in your protest, your account number, your PIN, the actual market value. 4 is your assessed value. And then 5 is the market value breakdown. And last but not least is 6 is the exemptions. Account number and your PIN are what you're going to use to set up your account. And I'll show you that here in just a second. The market value and appraised value. Now, this is where most of the confusion that I see happens. Your market value is what the county thinks your house would actually sell for. Now, this is usually not accurate. As a realtor, when I meet with potential home sellers, they like to think that their county value is what we're going to use to sell the house because it's listed as market value. It is usually very far off. For one big reason is because you can protest your taxes. So home sellers, as I'm recommending you do, you should be trying to convince the county that your home is worth a lot less than you really think it is. But when you sell your home, you're trying to convince a buyer that it might be worth more than what the market value said. So there's this big gap there. Anyway, the market value is not going to be accurate, but it is what the county is using their big algorithm on a zip code level. So all they're really doing is looking at a whole zip code. They try to get as close as they can to your current house, but they're looking across the whole zip code, just like Zillow does. And they are coming up with this value for your house. Now, the market value and the opposed appraised value. Now, the appraised value is what they're actually going to base your taxes on. Now, in this particular example, they're the exact same. But if you look at your protest, hopefully you filed your homestead exemption, your appraised value should be less than your market value. Most of the time it is. And that's what you really want to have happen is you want your appraised value lower than what they actually think the market value is. Now, this particular property is an investment property, so there is no homestead exemption. So these two are going to match all the time, but for a homeowner, these should be different. And that's one big thing you want to look at down here in this area 6 for the exemptions. You want to make sure you see a homestead exemption here at least. Now, you may also qualify for a disabled veteran exemption, senior citizen exemption, and there's others, but you really want to make sure that the exemptions that you should have are down here. If they're not, you need to reach out to the county immediately and get those added because they can be huge savers on your taxes. So once you've gotten the blue letter and you've seen your market value and your assessed value, that's when it's time really to reach out and get comps from us. Send an email to us or reach out to us. We'll get you comps on your house and we'll tell you what we think it could be worth if you were to protest. And if that difference is big enough, then it's time to protest. The way I would start that is with an automated protest. Now, automated is just what it sounds like. It's all online. You don't even have to leave your house. You get on the computer, you fill it out, and you submit it in. Normally, it's pretty quick and fast. You get an immediate response from them, and it's very easy. However, it is the least likely to get you a big drop. Now, could it happen? Yes, but it is the least likely if you're looking for 10, 20, or tens of thousands of dollars off your property. It's worth a shot, but you're less likely to get it through the automated protest. Now, the informal protest is my favorite protest. And I think that is where you're the most likely to win. Now, the difference here as we get into this a little bit later is really just you going and talking to someone at the appraisal district. It's informal. It's just you walk up to the counter, you talk to someone, you present your case, they make a decision. We'll get into more specifics of that later. And then the formal protest is what you probably have heard most about or are picturing in your head, where you go into a small room, you're with an appraisal review board, you're pleading your case through other homeowners or other citizens that are volunteering as the appraisal board, and you're pleading your case. And we'll get into more specifics later because that's the final level and the most formal of these, which is why it's called the formal protest there. So starting with the automated protest. Obvious benefits, it's online, it's instant, and it's really good for small decreases. So if you only think it's only off by, I would say under $10,000, it's a great way to start, and you'll usually get something out of it. Drawbacks here is it's all based on the algorithm. And so there is probably a magic number in there that I don't know, but a percentage off that you could probably get an automated approval on. But you can't submit evidence because there's no human checking it. And you can't really appeal anything. It's black and white. It is what it is. They make you an offer, you accept or you reject it. So here's how you do that. So let's see, I'm going to stop this right now real quick, this presentation. So my slides, I have a few hidden here that you can see here. They're from a previous year since the Tarrant County has updated their website. And unfortunately, I haven't got my blue letters yet, so I haven't been able to update my slides here. But this is the new it's tad.org. This is the new website. So you go here and you're going to click login at the top right. And then once you're here, if you don't have an account already, you just click create account. And this will pop up. Now, this is where that letter comes in handy because you're going to need to set up your name, email, password. And then you need your account number from the blue letter. And you need your online account PIN. Without these, you cannot set up your account, which means you cannot do an automated protest. Now, if you don't have a blue letter or you haven't gotten a PIN yet, you can request an online PIN and you just continue on. You can make that request. At this point, I can't go any further to show you this, but you're basically just setting up an account with the county. Now, once you have the account, we'll come back here and come back to present. So once you're in the account, now this may have changed a little bit, but you're really you need to make sure that your property is listed. So if you don't see any properties here, you're going to click add property on the website. It's going to ask you a few questions. It's going to once again want to know your account number and PIN, the property account number, the notice PIN. You put these in again. Why they ask you twice, I don't know. Maybe they fixed this with the new website update, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself. And then you'll get this property successfully added. Now you're going to have to go back to view properties. And now you should have your property here on your dashboard. Now, once you're there, you're just going to click online negotiation and protest. Once you click that, it'll take you to a new screen. Sorry, I know I'm going a little fast, but these replays will be available later, so you can go back through this and watch at your own speed. Once you get to this screen, it's going to give you the sales comp value, equity comp value. Don't worry about these differences here. They're usually the same. And then your market values here, and then you're going to get to enter your opinion. Now, this is where the comps that we provide as a real estate agents will come in handy, because this is where you're going to base your opinion of value off of. Because if you don't base it off of something, when this level doesn't work, then you'll need to submit evidence. So this is a snapshot of one of our, what we call our quick CMAs look like. There's just a couple of homes here in Dorado Ranch. This is from obviously 22. So the values are a lot lower in this, but we're looking here and you can see that when I look at these 4 sales comps, all very similar in size, all very similar location. We have an average and a median value that are very close to each other. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take that median value because it's lower, and we're going to pop it in there. Oh, looks like I used the average on this one, but regardless, you can pick whichever one you want or go right in between the two and average them again. But you're going to pop that in there, and then you're going to click make an offer. So it's going to make you an offer. Looks like this one went down just very little. And then you're going to click review current offer. So it was 351, it lowered to 352.79. So it took $800 off. And then you can select whether you want to reject, accept, or return and review it again. So like I said, the online valuations, you can see what the big difference here is. I pegged it at 320,000. They're looking at 351. That's $30,000. That's a $900 difference if you're looking at 3% tax rate. And they're only giving me an $800 off. Of course, I rejected. So then after you are done with this, and let's say you reject that offer, your next level is the informal protest. Now, this is nice because you can talk to a human. Most of these people want to help. Now, I'm not saying that they're all great. Of course, you might catch someone on a bad day, but for the most part, my interactions with the people at the review office or the appraisal board office, they're polite, they're professional, they want to help you. And as long as you present your case logically, they're more than willing to accept an offer here because they know that their algorithm isn't perfect. And most of these people are homeowners too. They sympathize. So if you present your new offer of value, you're organized, you lay it out methodologically, you have evidence to back up what you're saying, you have a very high chance of success. This is one of the reasons why it's my favorite, because it's the least of the formal and informal. It takes a lot less time. You don't have to set up an appointment to go, but you do, one of the drawbacks, you do have to drive down there. You have to do it in person. You cannot present this over the phone. And you need to have your evidence. So there is some homework that goes into doing this correctly. We'll get into what that homework and what that evidence looks like here in a second. So you need to prepare. If you're not great at presenting things or you don't have to do that regularly, it might be worth practicing once or twice too. The more prepared you are and polished you are, I'm not saying it has to be this super slick TED Talk style presentation, but just make sure you go through it at least a couple of times and what's in your packet, how to present it logically, and you can do that. So we'll go into what that looks like here. So the strategy here is twofold. You want an offensive strategy for your comps and your condition of your home, and defensive, you need to have a somewhat polished presentation, and you can even look at the comps that they're giving you. And you can even disqualify those comps based on what you found through your research. The comps, obviously, that's where you want to reach out to us. Honestly, you should probably do this before you even get started with the automated values. Just reach out to us. We'll get them over to you. That way you have an idea what's going on. So the first step in your offensive strategy is your condition. Now, this is where you want to look through your house as if you were a buyer. You want to find all the issues. I know some people that even go so far as to have a home inspection done. I don't really recommend that because it's 400, 500, $600 to have someone come through and tell you everything wrong with your house. However, depending on how much you're trying to protest and get off, that it may not be a bad idea because obviously that holds a lot of weight. What you're looking for is all these common issues. So check your outlets. Do you have an older or damaged flooring? Do you have more scratched up or scuffed walls? Do you have gutters that are damaged? Wood rot around the garage door is very common. Just look for all of these things that you probably overlooked. To be honest, we all overlook as we live in our homes for years and years. And what you want to do is you want to take pictures of every single one of these. And then you want to get professional quotes done. Now, once again, you may need to pay for these. And depending on how much you're trying to protest, it will be worth it. Most contractors will give you a free estimate, some won't. So I like to compensate the contractors I'm using for their time. A lot of times, and here's a little pro tip, a little hack here. If you tell them what you're doing and say, hey, look, I don't really want to get this work done anytime soon, maybe in the next 6 months to a year, but not now. I don't need you to come over here and do a full-blown quote. Here's what I'm looking at. Can you work me up a quote on your company letterhead, stock, whatever? Send me a digital PDF, whatever that looks like, on these things without having to come out here. So you save them time. They're doing you a favor, so you're more likely to use them in the future. And you can still offer a little bit of compensation, but let's say if they wanted $100 for a consultation, hey man, if you just do this online, what about $25, $50? Just try to negotiate with them. I've been pretty successful with that with a lot of the contractors I use more often. Is I tell them what I'm doing, offer them to be $100 to do 2 or 3 different quotes for me, and it works great. So you might be able to do the exact same thing. But as far as your evidence goes, when you're presenting the case, you need professional quotes. The appraisers are not going to accept your opinion of what it would cost to do that. You need some sort of evidence. It can be online quotes, like go to Angie's List and get a whole bunch of people to send you stuff. That would work too. So you might be able to do something like that for free, but pictures and quotes are big as far as your evidence goes. So your comps are your one thing and your condition is the other. Get good comps, get your condition documented and what it would cost to bring it back up to market value through professional quotes. Now, the defensive strategy is you want to pick apart the comps they're using. So when you go to protest, you now get access to all of their documents. And so you go back to your dashboard, you're going to click on the property, and now you can go down and you can click on documents. So you click documents, then you got to click view documents again. Again, hopefully they fix some of these things in the new website. There's a lot of redundant clicks in the old one. And so what you're looking for, here's all of your stuff. You can relook at your value notice if you lost it and all the different things. What you really want is just the residential sales. These are the comps they're using to determine your market value. Now, if you have a hearing notice, things like that, all that stuff's there. But once you click that, you're going to download this and you're going to get a report that looks like this. It's a little hard to read at first, but once you look at it and you see it, it's not too hard. So your house is the subject property, and then everything else is a comp. And what you're looking for here is first and foremost the sale date. When was this actually sold? And I like to point this out too, is because when you are protesting your taxes, they're basing this off of last year. And the rule of thumb is that anything within the last 6 months of the year is fair game to be used during your protest. So it doesn't have to be right from December or even November. It can be like these you see here all the way to June. And they're even using something from February on this one. I was actually able on this one to get that one thrown out because it was from February and use a comp that I liked better to help myself get my taxes lowered on this particular case. But once you look at this, you can really see what they're doing. Now, I'll tell you, some of the research you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to realtor.com or Zillow or whatever and find these homes and look at the pictures. And then you want to compare it to yours and you want to make notes on the differences. For example, let's just say you look at this house and like, oh, they had granite countertops and brand new flooring. My house still has the laminate countertops and still has carpet everywhere. Looks they did some custom upgrades and I don't have those. So you're really looking at differences to make your house look worse. Again, I know that feels backwards as a homeowner. I don't feel bad about my house, but when you're doing this, you're really trying to lower the value in the eyes of the appraisers. And so you want to find out why this comp is not a good comp because it has more value than yours. That's where all of that previous work, where you looked at all the damage and things like that, are really going to come into play. So once you look at that and you've researched the comps, you've looked at the values, you're going to go back and you're going to click protest value again. So instead of online negotiation, you're just going to click the actual red protest value. What you're going to click is incorrect appraised market value. Now this gets a little confusing. Obviously up here, you're going to click I am the owner, but when you go to incorrect appraisal market value and or unequal compared to other properties, so you're basically saying A and B. With this one would be option 1, and option 2 would be value is unequal compared with other properties. It is super vague what this means. However, I'll tell you, just ignore this one, even though it sounds like what you want to use. Just use this one here. The reason is this is an equity comp, and what you have to prove is different than the sales comp that I just showed you. So incorrect appraised market value is what you really want to do. It's the easiest to protest versus the value protest. Now you could try both and go for it, but what you really are trying to do is on this one is you're trying to show them where the algorithm failed, meaning how they valued different properties differently. For example, you and your neighbor had the exact same floor plan. I know that's not likely, but even if you go, let's say 4 houses down, you and your neighbor 4 houses down have the exact same floor plan, and theirs is valued, let's say at 320,000, and yours is valued at 350. And you look, and they were built in the same year. They have the exact same lot size and the exact same floor plan. You could go and you could say, look, it's the same floor plan. It's everything the same as mine, but you valued theirs at 350 and mine at 320, or vice versa. Sorry. And that's when they would say, oh, you're right. They're similar property valued unequally. We'll fix it. However, that is really hard to prove, and it takes a lot more research than even what we're asking you to do for the market value. So my recommendation is just stick with the market value. All right. So when you go through and you're actually doing the actual formal protest, this is what you're going to look at. You can have someone else do this for you. Only certain people are allowed to. It's either a lawyer, a legal representative. Weird enough, real estate agents can do this for you. However, it's not a service that we offer, unfortunately. So you're going to want to do this in person. Don't do the notarized affidavit. The problem with that is, again, you're not there to present it. So all they have to go off of is your evidence. And without you there to explain and make it more personal, it's a lot less likely to work. However, if you have a busy job, and you just literally can't make it, you could use a notarized affidavit, meaning you would have to go get something signed and notarized and then sent in. Panel type, I normally choose first available. I really don't see any difference success rate wise between a single member board and a panel of 3. What we're talking about here is, of course, the formal protest. Let's say the informal didn't work, and now we're moved into the formal, and you're choosing this is obviously setting this up. When you're choosing here, the only reason I would see a difference here is maybe you have a little stage fright. You don't want to present in front of more people than you have to. Then a single member board might be better for you. Less pressure, less eyes on you. But if you're really comfortable either way, the first available is normally what I choose. And then you can request the notice of hearing be delivered regular first-class mail or delivered by email to the electronic address associated with this dashboard. Now, a little pro tip, I always request my notice to be delivered by regular first-class mail. The reason is if that notice does not arrive on time, if they mess that up for some reason, you have a few extra rights there. It doesn't automatically win you the protest, unfortunately, but it allows you a little more flexibility with the hearing itself. But again, it's not that big of a deal. So if you'd rather just get it by email, go for it. And then you could request an informal conference with TD before the protest hearing. You could do this as well as if you want to do this while you're clicking the protest for the informal. You could do this and set up an appointment to be there. Most of the time, I just go, you walk in for the informal, that is. You don't have to have an appointment, but you could set up an appointment through this if you'd like to. So keep that in mind as well. All right, conduct the meeting. All right, I'm going to step out of this one because Jeremy has a few other slides here from his last presentation, or his last when he did it himself. Skip through the first couple here. So we're on the formal protest and we're talking about actually conducting the meetings. Now, let me take one quick step back. What is the formal protest review board? The Tarrant Appraisal Review Board is a citizen board appointed by a judge that serves on a panel to hear testimony. So what this is these people are volunteers. I don't believe they get paid. They're volunteers. They have to go in front of a judge. They get sworn in to be fair, appointed by the judge to hear all of the cases and evidence and be fair and impartial. Now, I will say that most of the people I've dealt with, I've done a couple protests, and most of the time the boards are pretty fair and impartial. I have gotten one though that seemed real buddy with the county, and they didn't seem interested in hearing my evidence at all. It may happen. I'll tell you, when you're in there, stay calm, even if it appears you're getting railroaded, because there is one step after this you could do. You can always appeal. That gets a little bit more complicated and outside the scope of this presentation, but you can appeal. That is your very last ditch effort here if this formal protest doesn't work. And then you would go in front of a judge then to actually appeal your property value. So it's one chairperson, and usually it's either the one person or the 3-person board. And there's also a Tarrant Appraisal District representative in there with you. So you'll either have yourself and 2 other people, or yourself and 4 other people in that room with you. They are an appraiser for the county. They work for the county, this representative, along with the board. So when you're talking about documentation, the nice thing is if you did your informal protest and you did your homework, you don't really have to do much else for the formal. There is one extra step here, but the documentation itself should be done. You had color pictures from the comps. You had the comps presented also. You have pictures of your home and the condition it's in, and you have quotes from contractors showing what that would cost to actually get fixed up. And if you have all that ready because you did the informal protest, then great, you just need to print more copies. So, because what happens is every person in the formal review board needs a copy of the evidence that you're submitting. So it's always better to print a little bit extra. I know it can be expensive. If you don't have a color copier, Walmart or FedEx, Kinko's, or UPS, print and ship stores, they'll all print for you, and it's not super expensive. There is another option where you can also bring flash drives. Now, you still have to bring 1 flash drive per person in the room. It's probably about the same cost just to get everything printed a couple extra times. So you need 5 copies, 1 for yourself and 1 for the other 4 people in the room. If you did choose, or you get appointed the single person board, then you only need 3 copies, 1 for yourself and then 1 for the other 2 people in the room. This is what the notice looks like. It tells you your time, your date, your case number, and your grounds of protest down here. You can see Jeremy chose incorrect appraised market value. This is from his protest last year that he did. These are, and this is an example of the comps that we provide. So it gives you a list of all the comps we used, a summary, pictures of each individual comp that's in there. So color photos are very important to provide so they can actually see the differences here. You would provide this obviously with pictures of your house so they can look at them side by side. And then here is a data only report. We call these the quick CMA. I showed you a little snippet of this earlier. It's important to note to show them that we've restricted the square footage to be similar size to the subject, to show the values here, to go through and show them what the property values are. In this way, it's a really nice quick summary. The comp report that we send is very nice. It's very colorful and it looks good, but sometimes you want to get right down to the data, especially if you're a data geek like me. And that's what this can really do real quickly, is show you quick averages, medians, dollar per square foot, and really get down to that. This is definitely should be part of your evidence packet. And here is a nice trend report. We can also provide this. If you get to this point, you're going into a formal protest and you want a trend report or something like this, we can send that to you as extra evidence that you might want to present. This is obviously done for Dorado Ranch, and he's basically, in this example, showing them that the property values have dropped year over year, saying, hey, Dorado Ranch has dropped 4% year over year, and yet you're trying to raise my property taxes. When there's a nice trend like this that we can use, it also just helps concrete your case that they shouldn't be raising your property taxes. Once again, so if you want to, when you get the replay or screenshot this real quick, info@smithteamdfw.com, just email us and we will definitely help you out and get those reports over to you. What to expect when you get there. It is very natural when you're in a situation like this because you get there, you sit in a waiting room, even though you have an appointment time, you got to take a number and you got to wait because they batch appointment times. Just because you got a 9 a.m. appointment time, well, so did probably 20 other people. And they just go through as quickly as they can. So it would probably be a good idea to get there 15 to 30 minutes early. So you pull a number and you'll hopefully be one of the first people up in your appointment window. It's super natural to be nervous, especially because you only get 5 minutes to present your case. That way, that's how they move through so many people so quickly is they don't let you just sit there and ramble on for 20, 30 minutes. You got 5 minutes to present your case. And after that, they cut you off and you're done. So it's very handy to be organized and to have practiced your presentation. Be ready to present. That'll help with the nerves and it'll help you present all the facts that you want to present in the time provided. Also, the place is confusing, especially during tax protest season. Ton of people there. Sometimes it's hard to see which signs point to where. And just be aware that obviously they're not going to start without you, but just get there early, scope it out, be prepared. You might even go a day or two early, or especially if you go for an informal protest, take a look around. That way you're a little bit more familiar with the place. So you're not as nervous, you're not as confused while you're there. It does move pretty quick once you're there, because like I said, everyone only gets 5 minutes, they're done. Once it's your turn, they'll call you up, walk you to one of the back rooms where they conduct the hearings, and they sit you in the room and they get started. They don't really give you a whole lot of intro time. They don't really ease you into it because they're trying to churn these out as quickly as possible. The whole time from when you get in the room to when you leave is normally somewhere between 6 and 8 minutes. Because you get 5 minutes to present your case, then the county will go. Usually they're just a minute and a half, maybe. The review board might take a minute or two to decide. They might decide immediately. It really is a little variable. I've never had one go longer than 10 minutes. No, most of them are right around 6 or 7 minutes. It goes pretty dang quick when you're in there. But when you get in there, the setup could be a little intimidating. So you're sitting at a table, you got the 3 people, they all have computers up. They're looking at the evidence and things like that. Of course, and as you're presenting the evidence to them, they're looking at the digital evidence being provided beforehand. Then you give them your evidence printed, or if you give them the flash drive, they'll take a minute to pull up on their computer. And they're all sitting there looking at the screens, and then it's time to go. It's showtime. So don't let it intimidate you. These people are here to hear the case and to hopefully side with you. Quick pro tip for situations like this: it's easy to get combative. You are here because you feel like your property taxes were raised unjustly. And man, I know I get angry about that when I look at my protest values. I don't want to pay more than I already do in taxes. And I know most of us don't here. It's why you're here listening to this. It's easy to go in and get angry. It's easy to be combative and argue with them. These people are just doing a job. They're not the ones who set the value. A computer did that. Now, the TAD representative also, more often than not, might even agree with you, because once again, they're a person. They have feelings. They're here to do a job. They are there to represent the county. And so as long as you present your case logically, friendly, professionally, and you treat everyone with respect in the room, they're way more likely to agree with you. I know it can be easy to get in there and get intimidated, get nervous, and start asking you questions, possibly get argumentative or combative. Just really try to stay away from that. The more friendly and polite and professional you can be during this hearing, the more likely it is to go in your favor. So once you get in there, they get started, you share your evidence, make sure everyone has their copies. They're going to ask if you want to present first or want the county to present first. I would definitely recommend you go second. The reason is, and this is a little bit of a psychological sales trick here, the reason is the person who presents last is usually more memorable. So I would tell you, if you want a better chance of success, go second. Now, I will say that occasionally I've gone first where I didn't even get the choice. They just wanted me to go first. That's fine. And I presented the case. They just agreed with me without even going second. Occasionally then, but the Tarrant County representative will go second. They'll present their case. I'll tell you, these guys, they get so matter of fact and so dry about it. it comes off with a lot of authority. And so I would strongly recommend, if they ask, especially, you want to go second. Once again, be prepared, know your material, practice this. Like I said, you only have 5 minutes. So you might even literally practice with a timer and make sure that you're presenting everything under 5 minutes. Present it to someone else in the house or a friend. I know this sounds ridiculous, but if it could potentially save you $1,500, isn't it worth at least a few practice runs? Because if you've gotten this far, hopefully it's worth your time to go in here and put a little forethought into the presentation here. So be confident, be concise. Don't expand too much on the details, because 5 minutes goes way quicker than you think it will. But be thorough. Don't skip minor details if they're important. So you want to hit all the important details, but just don't take too long explaining them, if that makes sense. That way you're sticking to the timeline and you're presenting all the facts that you need to. After you go, they may ask a few questions, perfectly normal. And once again, don't get angry. Don't show the emotions. Once again, most of these people are professional. They're there actually to help. They take their job seriously, but occasionally you get someone who just is having a bad day and they might be a little disrespectful, even if they don't even mean to be. Don't let it get to you, because the more angry you get and you show those angry emotions, the worse it's going to turn out for you. At the end of this, though, after they ask their questions and they present, a final number is determined by the review board. So not even the county representative, but the review board. Now, I will say, in some instances, the county representative will just throw out a number to you directly and say, hey, what do you think about this? If you agree and it's close, the review board will just take that and just give it to you. Now, if you don't agree, then it's up to the review board, and the review board's decision is final. This is what it looks like. If you let the review board go to it, they'll deliberate for a minute or two. They'll talk right in front of you. It's honestly, of all the parts of this, that was the most nerve-wracking for me, is they were talking about my property value right in front of me, like I wasn't even there. And then they decided on what it should be. And this is last year. Jeremy protested a value of almost 400,000 and got it lowered to 355,000 using these tips. You can see all their names here. And then once they give it to you, district agreed to 355. They sign it, they give it to you, you sign it, and then you have a new value, which is awesome. So Jeremy saved almost $1,200 on this by doing this himself. With that being said, that is the end of the presentation. I know I went through it quick, but we will be sending the replay out. If there's anything here, slide wise, things like that, you can go back through and look at all the individual slides through the replay if you'd like to.